Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian. Joining me, as always, is your co-host, Jim.
It's Taco Tuesday.
Oh, God, I wish it
Jen
was.
just brought me tacos.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I love tacos.
I know, right?
What, hard shell or soft shell?
Soft shell.
Oh, God. Tacos. It's the only way to go, I think. It's like...
Yeah, well, my critique on the hard shell tacos, if you make them at home, it's all right. But if you go to like Taco Bell and get them, by the time you get back to the office to eat, then the bottom of the taco has like fused to the paper, and it's not a good thing.
Yeah, so many of those hard tacos just get all soggy so fast, and then everything falls out anyway. It's like, what's the point? What's the point?
So I'm a soft shell man, except at home.
Right. We have Del Taco out here, and the only thing I ever get there, they're soft shell chicken tacos. They're the best. They're so fucking good. Your co-host Spaz. Hello, everyone.
Brought to you by Space Capitalism.
Yeah, not enough of that. Folks, before we get into our topic, I just want to real quickly apologize for the kind of scattershot schedule we've been having lately. Life has been weird, at least for me. I got sick. A cat died, got a new cat. It's just this last month and a half has been the weirdest freaking thing. So, like, last week, we didn't really feel... None of us, like, all three of us didn't feel very good, so we're just like, whatever, let's just not do it. Because we're not going to do a podcast where we're just like, hey, how you doing? We're sick. We're not feeling great. That's not fun.
It would be about 15 minutes long, and it wouldn't be too interesting for anyone.
It wouldn't be fun. We wouldn't get anything done, and it would just be it wouldn't be a good show. So it's kind of a weird time for me, especially with the cat and the job situation. I don't know what's going on there. So it's just kind of a weird time. So if we miss a week here and there, apologies. We're going to try and be consistent as we always are, but sometimes we might miss one. And if we do, just understand that there was a good reason we missed one, like we're sick or something came up or there's internet problems. Like, we don't just skip things willy-nilly. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we get into our topic. Oh, and Hunter should be back with us next week. I think he's going to be fully moved into his new place. He's going to have not so sweet. He tried to get his new internet, but they gave him a shit modem apparently. But hopefully he'll get all that worked out, and he should be back with us next week. So that'll be fun. So I put this topic together, about 2 months ago. I've just been bouncing it around because we get a guest, then we don't get a guest, then we do a show, then we don't do a show. So I'm kind of excited to finally talk about it because, recently, I think one of our last guest-focused podcasts was the developer of Interstellar Trading Company, which, is a primarily economic-focused space game. That's the whole deal is making money. I mean, a lot of these games are about making money, but that's like, seriously, is like, it's a business sim that just happens to be in space, basically. And so I got to thinking, what other games that have economies in them do well, and what games do not do so well? Because there are a lot of games with quote unquote economies in them. Like, for example, Elite Dangerous. It has a so-called, again, big air quotes, economy, but it's shit. Excuse my language. It's garbage. It's absolute crap. It means nothing. Absolutely means nothing at all. So, like, that's a bad example of an economy in a space game. And so I wanted to look at games that did I have three categories here that I parsed out. Games that have economies that are just garbage. Games with economies that are not bad, but could be better. Like, you see the potential for improvement. Like, they kind of went half the mile and didn't go the whole mile. And then I had, the biggest list is actually games with really good economies. There are actually quite a few of them. So I thought we'd start, what do you guys want to start with? The good or the bad? How would you guys like to go down this list here?
Well, I wanted to just say about economies in general, because it's going to come up in all of these, right?
Sure.
So you have games like Interstellar Transport Company that they manage the transportation part, right? So your income in the economy comes from that. But it's, if you look at the logistics of an economy, so you have to have somebody that mines the resource, and then somebody that transports the resource to a manufacturing place, and then transport from manufacturer to a retail, and then you have a consumer, right? And if any part of that chain breaks, your economy is broke. And if the economy breaks, then you have, supply and demand in there, right? So if something breaks the economy, then you get into scarcity and prices. So it doesn't necessarily collapse. So you could actually screw up the economy, screw up the supply chain, drive prices up, things like that. But a lot of games will look at one piece of the chain, but not the whole thing.
Like, do you have an example in mind of a game that's guilty of that?
Every one of them. I mean, this is why when I keep talking about like Railroad Tycoon in space, that's why. That's the reason that I want that, is because you have to find the resource, take it to somewhere that, and you're dealing with the cost of being the transportation, right? And then when it gets there, then you are again the transportation to take it to where it's going to get sold, right? But you don't make the money on the retail sale, and you don't make the money on the manufacturing part. You're just getting the transportation part. But without finding the because in reality, right, the person who has the demand for the thing will arrange for the transportation to happen. It's not on the, like, the person that dispatches trucks doesn't have to like call up, places and say, hey, I have this idea for a product. Right, let's build a factory. Right, so it's just like, hey, there's a factory somewhere and they need a material to make their thing, and the whole reason the factory exists is because there's a retail need for that thing. So it feeds down from consumption, right? You don't end up with like, hey, I dug up this new mineral, we should find a way to transport this in an industry. We have to invent something and then find out who would buy it, right? It's a top down, not bottom up kind of economy thing. But yeah, I just don't see many games that handle that sort of thing well. I think like a Railroad Tycoon thing is exemplary about that. And
I was also thinking, what you're talking about reminds me of the business layer of Euro Truck Sim 2 as well. Like when you finally start getting trucks.
That's why I keep saying I wish to hell that Elite Dangerous would rip off.
Oh God, right?
Euro Truck Sim.
I would play that
Euro
forever.
Truck Sim has, because Euro Truck Sim, Elite's problem is you make money on the transportation, but you have no drain. There is no risk involved in this. So it's not like, oh, I pick these commodities up. Oh, but I get them there and the price tanked while they were in my cargo hold. I lost money. There is none of that. You're going to make money. So there's nothing that draws money out of the game. And we've seen that in other MMOs, right? Where they have to introduce something that's a gold sink just to draw money out of the game. Otherwise, people's wallets just get increasingly huge and it breaks.
Right.
So yeah, so that's kind of what that game lacks, and it fails to put the carrot on the stick because I don't have to pay upkeep on my ship. I don't have to like make my truck payment or whatever, right? There is no expense to just being in business that I have to maintain. And if they put in like player-owned stations and stuff, that would do it. Because that's how EVE Online does it, right? It's like you have to continuously feed things into your structures in order to keep them online. How do you get those things? You don't have time to go out and hunt for that yourself. So therefore, you're going to buy it on the market or make arrangements with people that can mine it and manufacture it and supply it to you. So that game actually has a logistics chain from end to end. And the consumption thing, like, well, why would people want these widgets? You need them to run your station. Why do you need the station? To be a viable military power. So the PvP nature of the game drives the consumption. If
Right.
not for that, there wouldn't be a top end. There would be nothing to sink money out of the economy there either.
Well, since you mentioned Eve, let's start with the games that have really, at least for space games, pretty good economies. Like Eve is probably the one of the best. Really, I mean, that and probably the X games have probably the most complex economies of any space game that I can think of. Right? Is there anything that's more complex than Eve? I can't think of anything.
No, I think that's pretty much got it.
Yeah, Eve is pretty much the winner in terms of a space-based economy sandbox because, like, the thing about Eve is, like, it's like Interstellar Transport Company is great, but like, it's incidental whether it's in space. Like, I could be like on a planet and be the same game, but Eve Online that has to be in space because you're mining wormholes and things like that. You're going into really dangerous, like, weirdo things to find stuff. So
Yeah, and there's people in Eve that play Eve that never get in a spaceship. They just play the stock market or the economic game.
or the planetary game or the whatever the planetary management whatever
but,
that is.
But that's like resource stuff, right? But
Yeah.
I'm talking about people that will stand up trade stations and then they just run the trade station and they just deal with, like, you know, they pick up the phone and it's like, hey, I need an order of this, deliver it here, you know, at this price, whatever, and they're just arranging supply for things that have demand. There's other people that will go, like, to the hub systems and they will sell and buy stuff there on the market and just never leave the space station.
I believe
and it's like some people play the whole game that way, which you absolutely can do.
You totally could do. I don't know how. I don't think you guys were big into Jump Gate, but that game has an amazing economic system. Like, some things can only be built on certain stations, and you have to get certain resources to have those things built, and then those things have to be taken to other stations to have, like, guns built or radar built. You know, like, they need a certain amount of electronics, but, you know, for electronics you need silicon. How do you get silicon? Well, you find it in asteroids, and then you refine it. You know. So that game has an amazing
which is exactly what Elite needs. Honestly,
oh yeah.
It needs,
oh my god, I wish.
There's a factory in this system that makes this thing.
Exactly.
And it's the only place in so many light years that makes that thing. So in order for them to make that thing, you have to take the resource that gets turned into that thing and bring it there.
Yeah.
And it's up to the players to bring it there. If the players aren't bringing the stuff to the factory just sits idle. And then that would drive the economy. It's like, why can't we get this type of shields? Well, because that gets made in that system and it needs this thing from that system to actually get made. So if you're not going to supply that thing, then these things just won't appear on the market anywhere.
Exactly. That was the most amazing thing about it. One of the most amazing things about that game. And folks, again, I'm going to tell you, if you haven't played Jump Gate, you can play it for free right now. Just look it up. Google it. I don't remember the URL. But yeah, it got resurrected. You can play it for free. The only downside is hardly anyone plays it because Elite exists. And it's not as much fun with so few people. But if you just want to see a good example of a space economy at work, that's a really good one. So I was just going down, like, the list of games that have been released in the last 20, 30 years, and this next one, like, really surprised me. Do you guys remember Beyond Soul? The game where you'd, like, build a city in space? Mm-hmm. That game has an amazing economy. Did you guys remember that one? Like, you can mine stuff and sell it at your own base, and then other people might come to your base and buy it and sell it at other bases, and you could see the price of things go up and down depending on supply and demand. You know, not only in your base, but other bases. And then you get, like, an alert, like, oh, this system needs a lot of water or something, you know, and there'd be a crash. And so you'd have to go find, like, ice asteroids and go mine them. Or comets. You can get, I think, stuff from comets. So that was a game that really had the economy feeding the gameplay a lot.
Was there a consumption angle to that? Like, you don't get this thing unless that stuff gets supplied?
To build.
Yeah, because you have multiple cities, or the bases are cities in space.
Yeah.
So if they don't have what they need, they can't grow.
They can't grow and they can't function, and you also need certain amounts of whatever materials to build different things. Like you might need X, Y, and Z to build a hangar, but you might need A, B, and C to build a habitat, or X, Y, and A to build a power plant. So there's definitely reasons to seek out these varied resources, which was just fascinating to me. It's one of my favorite things about that game. It seems kind of a forgotten game in the deluge of games of the last few years. But if you haven't played that one, folks, it's very playable. Very, very playable. The controls are a little weird, but it's just you'll never run out of things to do in that game. We also have to mention the Space Rangers games because they have really fantastic economies. One of my favorite things about that game, I wish more games did this, is the search function. Remember this, Spaz, where you could like search for anything or anyone from a planet?
Yeah,
like
you could search for a good within a certain range.
Range,
of your
exactly.
location.
And it would tell you the prices of all the thing where all these things were bought and sold in range. And you could be like, okay, so this thing is cheap here, but these guys need it, so they're charging more here. I'll go buy it here and sell it here. It made doing that so much more efficient than just about
and then there's
any game.
The other layer on top of it, which is that events can happen. So while you're on the way to say planet A that has the thing that you want to buy and then sell at planet B, there could be an invasion of that system, and suddenly you can't get there anymore.
Or my favorite is... Sorry, go ahead.
Or it could be that it gets bought out by the time you get there because someone else noticed it, and then other traders have gotten there before you.
I think my favorite was when I was on a planet and I waited I skipped 2 days because I wanted the supply of this thing to go up a little bit where people would sell it, and then I would buy it. But by the time I left to sell it somewhere else, Dominators had invaded the system, and I couldn't freaking leave. I couldn't get out without being destroyed. So I had to land and skip 2 weeks until the Dominators were beaten back.
And by that point, the prices on the other planet could have changed.
It did. It was I got to find another place to sell this now because that other planet, they don't care anymore. Someone else supplied them. So
yeah, see, and that's exactly that risk reward thing.
Oh, yeah.
Timeliness.
Very well done.
Insanely well done.
Really, really well done.
Yeah.
If you want to play as a trader in that game, primarily as a trader, and not really focus so much on combat, there is a huge economic sim going on in the background.
It's completely viable to be just a trader. You can have weapons for defense maybe, and maybe put on some good engines and run away, but you can totally just be a trader if you want to.
There's a rank system in that game depending on your play style. Like being a bounty hunter or being a trader is completely viable.
Agreed. And it's quite fun actually. Sometimes I don't want to do a mission. I'm just going to find stuff to buy and sell for a while. Totally viable, totally fun. And again, the risk reward of that dynamic universe is almost unmatched in just about any other game. So folks, if you haven't played, Space Rangers HD is pretty much the definitive one at this point. If you haven't played that one, folks, it's probably on sale right now. But it goes on sale for $4, all the time. And if you haven't played that one, oh my God.
Yeah, given the Steam sales going on, it should be on sale.
I'm going to look right now.
Yeah, it's actually, as we are recording this, it is $3.74.
Which is
75% off.
Yeah, that's the price it usually goes down to. I mean, sometimes you'll find it in a bundle with some other stuff. I was wondering what that noise was. My wife is feeding the cats treats. It's very cute, actually. Excuse me. But yeah, $3.74. That's you could get a penny for every hour you spend in that game at that price. That is probably one of the best bargains in gaming, unless you find it in a bundle or something. That's the only way it's cheaper. But even $3.74 for that game if you don't own this,
total
what the hell's
steal.
wrong with, yeah. If you don't own this,
if you're listening to this podcast,
exactly,
you don't own it.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Rectify that.
Yeah, welcome to space gaming. Buy that. That should be like one of your first stops if you're new to space gaming, because like it's turn based, so like there's no rush. You know, you can take your time doing things. You know, you can plan your moves and your next steps. It's like just really one of the best. It's also got a learning curve.
One little addition: if the RTS mode is kind of janky.
That's the one thing I don't like.
Okay, yeah. So they give you an option right at the beginning. You can, the first time you get into one of those RTS situations, you can decide whether or not to never play them. And you can choose to not play any of those for the remainder of your game. And that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
yeah, it's a good option.
Yeah, don't play the RTS option. Everything else, like the hyperspace arcade mode and the text adventures that you'll run into every now and then. There's so much in this goddamn game, and like it's amazing. But again, the economy is just kind of a wonder. You know, it really is kind of a wonder. There's another game I should have added to this list that I forgot to. Was it Space? Is it Star Nomads or Space Nomads?
Star Nomad 1 or 2.
Because that series is kind of similar to Space Rangers, but the developer put a very detailed economic sim in the backbone of that game.
Yeah, they're both good.
Yeah, exactly. I just forgot to add it to the list. Of course, we can't do this without talking about the X series. Say what you want about the X series. People love them, people hate them, but they're solid economic games. You know, I mean, if all you want to do is play the economy, and I guess you could, but you're gonna have to fly
I've never
around.
Actually gotten to that point in the game.
That's why so many people play it. That's why most people play it, is to build an economic empire.
Yeah, and it's like I'm playing through the campaign or whatever, or like just trying to figure out like what am I supposed to be doing, but not quite getting to the part where okay, now I actually own a station and whatever.
Yeah,
I'm just like trying to get enough money to get a decent.
I've never gotten that far, like never. In the X games. Similarly, you can do that in the Evercron games as well, and those have pretty good economies. And you can also build your own station and whatnot. But those games have pretty good economies in terms of like you can go mine a thing and then sell it or refine it, and it can be used for other things. Planets have demands, space stations have demands, and they'll give you missions based on those demands. So I prefer the Evercron games because they feel more like a flight sim, whereas the X games feel more like, oh, this is my office that just happens to be a spaceship. Like, if you've never tried it, you should get one of the X games and just try some combat. It's the stupidest combat in any, like... Okay, it's not the stupid. It's pretty bad, though. It's pretty down there. Like, combat's like a freaking afterthought in those games.
Yeah, but if you do like Albion Prelude, it's basically like a combat campaign.
That one's much more combat focused.
Right?
Yeah, that one is
kind of like,
far
okay,
more
take this ship and we're going here and there's this big battle going on and, get in here and...
Whereas X4 is like, go scan this station. Okay. Now go scan this one. All right. Now go take over that ship. What?
Yeah, X4 has not quite got to the point where I need it to be yet.
No. I don't know if it ever will. Maybe they need some more expansions like X Rebirth got.
Yeah, it had amazing promise, but it's like just the basic shit doesn't work, right?
That's EcoSoft, though. That's
can't
EcoSoft.
Dock and undock and... Well, yeah, but I'm just saying it needs to get to that point, right, where at least the basic functions. We're only, a year and a half into this?
I don't think not even. It came out like late last year.
That's right.
Like November of last year.
I gave it a year longer than I thought.
Yeah, no, it's only been a little more than half a year, since that came out. And it's still, they just released a big 2.0 patch for it, and it still has issues. Oh boy. But
Yeah,
God
I
bless
gave
them
up
for working
whenever
on
my
them.
ships couldn't undock. It was like I had a thing making ships in a station, and then all the ships would just like glom together in the doorway because they couldn't figure out how to get out the door all at once, and they stuck to each other. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll just wait.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, you think you'd? I don't know. I guess they had. Wait, aren't they their own? Aren't they their own publisher at this point?
Yeah, but I
So,
figured they were just going to build on top of what you know uh, X Rebirth had already done, which they kind of did. And I just
sort
figured,
of.
okay, well, like open up the thing, but they kind of like redefined that whole damn game, which I don't know. I think the foundation of X Rebirth was solid. It just needed to be turned into a like sandbox more so, and I think they redesigned too much.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, X Rebirth actually turned out to be fun, and then it's like, but that's probably what'll be happening here. They'll flesh out X4 with like 2 or 3 expansions, and then X5 will be like 18 steps back from X4.
It's almost like Paradox should be publishing this thing because it's just like, well, you gotta give it a few years. It'll Stellaris. Hey, is Stellaris on your list?
No, I don't even know what is there an economy in that? I don't even.
There's mega corporations. That was
the
God. Last DLC, right?
Isn't that the last? Oh God, I don't even remember. I haven't. I think it's been at least a year or two since I played it.
Which version of Stellaris is it now? Because there's been like 10 different versions of that game, and that's why like people aren't happy, or some people are happy but nervous, right? It's like, oh my God, they got it. This is the game I want, and you're good for a few months, and then they change it. Yeah, I can't wait until they start trying to put diplomacy stuff in more, and that's going to make the game super weird.
I'll be honest,
diplomacy, like economy and diplomacy, are the two things that 4X games have a bitch of a time with. And,
I'll be honest with you.
Honestly.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say go. You first.
All right, I'm doing it for real now. Okay, so Distant Worlds, I think, has a very interesting platform for both.
That's on the list.
Politics and economy.
Yeah, that's why it's one of my favorites. It is my favorite.
Yeah, because 4X games basically, you can say like, open a trade station, right? And then who do I want to trade with? But you don't have to say like what we're going to trade or what prices we're going to trade at or anything. It's just like, okay, I allow trade here, and I build a building that lets it happen, and then it's passive income or something.
Yeah, because the civilians take it. Yeah, the civilians take it. So in Distant Worlds, at least.
Yeah, but it's nice because you can actually watch that happen, and if you let the civilian traders get killed, your economy gets fucked. So that's nice.
I don't know if you've played the Gladius, the 4X from Slytherin. Well, it's not even a 4X, it's a 3X, because there's no diplomacy at all, and it's great for it. It's just war, just fight. They don't even try.
In the dark future, there is only
exactly
aggressive negotiation.
They don't even try. It's great. They're just like, we're not going to try with diplomacy. Like, I think there's only a few 4X games that have done diplomacy well. There's like Star Ruler 2, which we're going to talk about. Distant Worlds.
The other game that did that too was Star Drive 2, right? Because Star Drive 2, and it got dinged on it a lot, but if you think about it, maybe that's the smart way. There is no diplomacy. There kind of is, but it's kind of like we agree to not kill each other today, right? But there's not a lot of deep diplomacy stuff going on in that game. It's just like start gearing up for war right from turn one. War is coming, and as soon as you meet somebody, it's like, am I killing them today, or can I chill them out a little bit and then I can kill them tomorrow? But yeah, that's a thing.
I was going to go back to Star Ruler 2. I don't know if you've played it, but like that game not only has a fascinating economic system, like absolutely fascinating. Like I've never seen a game with an economic system like that one. It has a fascinating diplomacy system too. It's this like mini card game where you use influence that you generate to buy cards that you use for certain decisions. And it's great actually. It's probably one of my favorite diplomatic systems. Maybe that should be another.
That's pretty wild.
Maybe that should be another topic. Like, why do so many 4Xs get diplomacy and espionage wrong? Because those are the things they always just like. This is garbage.
Well, and that's the episode I want Brad Wardell to show up because he's the AI guy, right?
Right.
And he also just put out an espionage expansion for their game. So
right, that's true.
It's kind of like, yeah, I would like to hear his thoughts on that because it's like even if you can't implement it, it's like I know what it should be, but it's impossible to code or something, or it's at some point you get to the point where you say, it's to actually code this is such a pain in the ass, and I can just do it cinematically because I just look at like where's the player at, what would be interesting, and then I make interesting things happen instead of actually crunching real math behind the scenes. It's just like, well, it's about time for an economic downturn or something, so we'll just do that, right? Roll some dice and see what happens, rather than like you have to explain out the real cause and effect for this to happen. But if the game is like a trade based game, well, you have to. You can throw some random events in there, but you can't have nonsense.
It's interesting you bring that up because who added Spaz? Was you that added Off-World Trading Company to the list?
Yep.
Because that's a good ad that I should have thought of, because that game has kind of a sideways diplomacy system where you could pay people to sabotage other players and crush their economy, which is kind of great.
It kind of reminds me of the pirates in Sins of a Solar Empire, right? Which is a weird mechanic that I never really actually liked, but it's just like, I'm not going to attack these people. They're like clear across the map, and I don't want to sail over there. But I can like put a bounty on their heads with the pirates, and then the pirates will go deal with them.
You can do that in Distant Worlds too.
Yeah,
but it's much easier. For me, it makes more sense in Distant Worlds than it ever did in Sins of a Solar Empire.
Well, in Sins, the thing about the bounties is that when you have the minor factions, it's not just the pirate bounties that you have to deal with, because some of the minor factions allow you to pay the minor faction in order to have them send a fleet too. So you can actually just kind of pile on. And then on top of that, you can send your own fleet so that they all arrive around the same time and chaos happens.
That should be the subtitle of that game. Chaos happens. Basically. That's basically what Sins of a Solar Empire is. It's a chaos generating machine. So kind of going along with the X series, I don't know if you guys have played Unending Galaxy, but that was built by a modder of the X games that wanted like a top-down X game. And so he built a game where like you can build whole empires out of nothing. And they can have their own trading, they can have their own bounties, they can have their own missions and things. Or you can just be a trader, and the game has a dynamic economy. Folks, if you haven't played that game, I think that's also pretty cheap on the Steam sale right now, and that's a real good one. If you have any interest in space bucks at all. And speaking of which, space bucks. I mean, it's right there in the name. But I mean, as much as I liked Interstellar Transport Company, I think Space Bucks is really a unique, like, best in class game of its kind,
Well, if again, Railroad Tycoon in space.
What's up?
Just real quick. Unending Galaxy, as we speak, is $1.79 on the Steam sale.
Oh, for God's sakes, people. That's amazing. That's an amazing deal. Because you can use procedural maps. You can use the maps the game comes with. You can have different starts, they call them. Like, you could be an empire. You could be a trader. You could be a bounty hunter. You could be an explorer. And there are different factions that all have their own things going on. It's an intense game. but it's
Well, and
really
unlike the X games, it cuts the bullshit of like, okay, you're a guy with a little tiny starfighter, and now you have to get up to the point. You have to grind until you get enough money that then you can buy a station. Now, in that game, you can, depending on what scenario you start with, it's like, here's my fleet, and I've got a lot of money, and I've got a station already. And or you can play it where, okay, I am one little ship, and then I hire a freighter and I escort my freighter around as it does trades and stuff, and then you build up from nothing. You can do it either way. I really do like that game though. The UI, it takes a little bit of learning.
Takes a bit.
It's a little inconvenient, but
it's got a curve. It's got a learning curve. But once you get it, like, it's amazing to like start with an empire, like a budding empire, and then you could tell. And you don't even have to control each ship individually. You could be like, hey, scouts, go explore. Hey, colony ships, go find planets to colonize. Hey, traders, go find the best routes. Go. Everyone just go.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing where you tell the trade ship, like, just go do your thing, make me money.
Make
and
money.
They go.
And if they get attacked, they'll let you know, and whatnot. So give them an escort. But that game is hella deep.
Yeah, I like a lot of things there.
Yeah, once you get past the not quite impenetrable, but it takes work to get past that UI. There is an insanely deep game there that is worth so much more than $1.79. Oh my god,
80% off.
Jeez, that's an amazing value right there. Another game with a good economy, similar to Jumpgate and whatnot, is Vendetta Online. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that game, but I have to admire that it has.
Why not? What is it?
It's the transit.
Like, it doesn't.
There's two things. I have learned recently that even the most open of space games, if it takes too long to get somewhere, and I don't feel like the mission payouts are good enough, I lose interest almost immediately. Like, I'll be honest, that's what killed Objects in Space for me. I was enjoying Objects in Space until I realized most of this money that I get from the mission is going to jump fees and docking fees. And I get almost nothing. Like, it's like they want you to force you to get a loan to get a jump drive. I'm like, I don't want to loan.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, right? Because what I was talking about, if you do like Euro Truck Simulator in space, you would be in exactly that position. It's like, I have to go into debt to start this game. And then now I got to pay my debt off.
That bugs me so much.
And then I can worry about expense.
That bugs me so much. It's like, Yak says that's what's wrong with a lot of space games. They try and be so big, but then it ends up being a slog to get anywhere. Yeah, like that. That again, that's what killed me with Objects in Space. Is that you could do? I mean, it didn't take too long to get anywhere if you had like time compression and whatnot, but like the mission payouts were so paltry, like I'm just spinning my wheels. Like it was like Evercron kind of killed me with that too, and so did Vendetta. Vendetta killed me with the transit more than anything else. It just took so long to get anywhere, and it's like I feel like I'm wasting my time. But it has a good economy, but it's like, come on.
To me, it's like as close to Jumpgate as you're going to get without being Jumpgate.
Yeah.
With the way the map's laid out, there's 3 factions. There is PvP if you.
But like, it felt like with Jumpgate, I never felt like, even in the slowest ship, it never felt too long to get from one system to the next. But with Vendetta, it always feels like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of jumps because you can only jump so many sectors, and then at the sides of the map is where you jump actually from. Like,
maybe that's it. Like it felt like
it's like you jump systems, right? There's so many so many sectors in a system, and depending on what your jump drive is how many grid squares you can go, and you have to cross the whole grid end to end to be able to jump the wormhole at the other side. That's why it might take you 3 jumps to transit a solar system.
Whereas with Jumpgate, you just point to the next gate and you go. And like you feel like you're in a space truck because you're actually moving. Whereas like with Vendetta, it's like, okay, I'm gonna wait some more. Okay, let's go. I'm gonna wait some more. It's just, it just killed my enthusiasm of that game. But it's a good game. I know a lot of people who like it. I got nothing personally against it. It's just not for me. On the opposite end of that is Helium Rain. Because that game, it was great to get around in that game. Great to get around in that game. That game, like, I never felt like, I think that's the thing. I don't feel like Vendetta Online respects my time. It's got a very, like, 90s, early 2000s sensibility in terms of, you don't have a lot of games to play, so we're going to make this longer, you know, so you feel like you get more game out of this. Whereas Helium Rain, it's like, you got to get over here, just hit that, fast forward, you're there. And then fly over there. That takes like 2 minutes. And then, you're docked already. Like, I feel like
my problem in Helium Rain was confusion about, like, where's my shit? What's going on? I forget what I was doing last time I was in here playing this.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
You can have so many assets, so many different places. And,
like, this shipyard's building a thing.
And it's kind of on you to remember what you're doing. And you can't ask your own ships, like, why are you there? So
yeah, like, what are you doing? What's going on with you? Yeah, exactly.
The existential question: why are you?
Yeah, Yak brings up the example of Kenshi as a game where lots of random things can happen, and I mean, he says travel takes a long time, but so much random shit can happen between A and B. You can really get caught up inside things. I'm fine with that. You know, I'm
have you
okay
ever
with
played
that.
Kenshi? It's
I tried.
Very
It's hard. I didn't get far because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. You know, I have
there's
it.
Something the thing that kills me about that game. There's something about the camera, and I can't even tell you what it is. But there's something that just makes me crazy with the camera. It just feels off, but I can't say why.
Yeah, I started a character and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to go to this other town. So I started running to this other town. I'm like, okay, what am I doing? Like, I just kind of felt lost. Like, how do I even start this? What am I doing? Like, give me something.
It's basically like a freeform Baldur's Gate. It's just like, here you are in the world, whatever, you know. Like,
Yak says you start
by figure stuff.
Yak says you start by watching some Let's Play tutorials. I'm like, come on, at least put something in the game. Give me like a tutorial quest or something. Like, just explain shit to me. That's really all I need. You know, just explain it to me. I don't have time to watch a video.
YouTube tutorials aren't necessarily the cure either.
They're not.
Because I've watched like a lot of Nucleum playing that game, and it's more fun to watch him play it than to try to play it myself, because he actually has interesting stuff happen. And with me, it's just kind of like, I don't know how he knew what the fuck was going on, because I'm not interpreting it right, I guess.
He's played a lot of it, though. That's fair.
That's the thing.
Played a lot.
He's got the experience behind him of, like, he knows what expectations are in that, and it's kind of like, I haven't built that. Even from watching his videos, I don't quite get it. So I just need to play it more, I guess.
I should try and load that up and give it another try. But yeah, maybe I'll watch it.
I would be all about a space Kenshi.
I think
not even kidding. Like, give me a spaceship instead of a dude, and then let me just fly around and talk to people and recruit dudes. And
it's not a space game.
At the bar.
It's not a space game, but Nomads of the Fallen Star is similar. It's made by the same guy who made the Star Nomad games. It's very similar to what you're talking about, and it reminded me of Kenji, but a little more directed. You know, so I find that a much better experience as a new player.
Yeah, but I mean, instead of getting a bunch of guys that run around with you, let me recruit ships, right, and keep it in space. But otherwise, like, it's the Kenshi kind of open world thing, I guess, is like, I would totally welcome a game that's like that. It's just like, here's a space sandbox. It's just like, this world just goes on without you, but you happen to be in it and you can influence things. But the game's not triggered off of you. The, like, different stations and planets will go to war with each other. It's kind of like Distant Worlds, right? Where you just sit back and just watch that game play itself, and then you can grab one ship and just fly around and be in it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like Drox Operative in a way.
Sort of, yeah. Totally different
except,
presentation, but yeah.
Right. Concept-wise, very similar. Or another comparison might be, say, something in the Star Traders universe. Like Star Traders Frontiers, which also, by the way, is on sale right now, $10.04 as we record this. Now that has an excellent economy going on. Lots of random events can change how things go, where you buy it, and then maybe there's an embargo and you can't even land there to sell what you need to sell. Or trade wars are going on, so you might end up pissing off one faction in order to please another.
Yeah, now see that has an interesting thing going on, because we were talking about diplomacy stuff, and here it's actually diplomacy and trade hand in hand, right? Because usually they exist as completely separate entities in games, but here it's kind of like, well, politically, depending on how they feel about you is how they're going to let you do business as well.
Yeah, and whether you have the right permits or the right level of permit to sell, and whether or not you have skills that will increase your reputation with that faction or with the contacts at that particular location by selling there. Because that can actually change the dynamics of whether or not you can sell to that faction later.
Yeah. Yeah. There are two more games on the good list that we haven't talked about yet. Off-World Trading Company, we kind of talked about it, but I forgot about it. That's my fault. But that game, if you guys haven't played that, that's like one of the most non-violent yet cutthroat RTS games you will ever play. Oh my god.
Oh, it's pretty violent, just not in game, but with your friends afterwards. You want to beat somebody's ass.
Oh my god.
Virtual tables will be flipped.
Yes, and even just even the AI too. The AI is so good in that game. It will kick
the
your
thing
ass.
that I have never really grokked with that game is, like, I feel like I can't find the balance of how much in debt do I want to go, and if I'm not going in debt, then I'm falling behind. But then suddenly somebody, one of the computer guys will suddenly throw down all the money and buy me out. Just no warning, and it's like, oh, well, shit. I thought I was doing really good until about 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, you gotta keep that share price high. So it's so crazy. It's such a crazy game. It's so good though. Excuse me, but another one
real quick on that. There's a GDC talk about the economy, the making of that economy on Off-World Trading Company.
Ooh. And
it's really fascinating stuff. They took the idea of the economy in Age of Empires, and they said this is not going to work, because all that is you buy something and then the price incrementally increases. Or you sell something and the price decreases. And that's all that Age of Empires had. So what they did was something a little bit different. And I think the better way for this to be played out is for people to actually watch the talk, because it's awesome. I'll link it in the stream chat.
Yeah, could you send me link it somewhere so I can add it to the show notes?
Soren himself giving the talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to watch that, because that sounds fascinating. Because Soren is such a fascinating guy, But the last game I was going to mention on the good list, I forgot about this part of the game. But Hard War. Remember Hard War? That game had an actual fairly detailed economy, where certain factories made certain things, and you could buy and sell between factories, and you could take little jobs to supply factories with things that were made by other factories. I mean, not a lot of people played that game, which is a real crime. But
it was kind of like Blade Runner Truck Simulator.
It honestly was. It was basically Blade Runner Europe. What was the name of the moon? Titan Moth Simulator, basically, because they were called moths.
And it dawned on me why they're called moths.
What's that?
Because they're solar powered, and then you have to park them under the lights. And I was like, oh,
that I never thought of that. So Spaz just posted the link to the GTC talk in our stream chat, but I will also be adding it to the show notes on Space Game Junkie for the MP3 podcast if you want to watch it. Yes, Yak, we did talk about EVE Online. It was actually the first game we talked about because, holy crap, that economy. They actually have an economist on staff for that one. Which is crazy. So let's see. Now we're going to talk about games that have, like, an economy that didn't go the whole mile. Like, it was like, oh, I see what you were trying to do, but did you give up? Or did you just not think it through? Like, Independence War 2, for example. Like, that game, your entire existence for much of that game was pirating stuff off other people, then finding people to sell it to. But the finding people to sell it to part was so simplistic and not very well fleshed out.
Yeah, it was almost like it needed a fence character, and it's just like,
that would have been great.
Okay, I got the stuff, and then you let your fence deal with it. You just deliver it to the fence, and then find out what he.
Oh yeah, no, that would have been great. Like, I could take this off you for this much, but we don't need this stuff right now. It's like, oh god damn it! Then maybe you have to find another fence for this stuff that this other fence doesn't want.
Well, God, here we go, Elite again. So that was the thing that I was thinking with Elite, right? Way back when they introduced like black markets on stations, is a thing of like, okay, you should have an economy with the black market that is just like the economy with the factions in the station, except there's like a crime syndicate instead of like a political family that runs it. It's kind of like shadow politics, but it's that same political system and influence and stuff, except, the dark side of it. So they won't let you just sell like, oh, I stole a whole bunch of gold from this guy. Yeah, you can't fence that here. Why? Yeah, you got to start out fencing cheaper stuff here. We don't trust you yet. We're not going to move your good stuff, right? Or you're going to get a super shitty price for it. So, but the thing would be then, like, the more rep you built with the local crime guys would be like the better prices and the better opportunities to sell stuff to them, right? And then it would be like, eventually they would send you out on missions like, go get this for us or go make this delivery for us, kind of thing, and build your rep. Like, they trust you more because you've proven yourself. Yeah, they just never did it, unfortunately.
Which is such a shame.
Because that would have because a lot of people wanted to role play pirates in that thing, but there's no point because it's like you go through all the work to disable a ship and you shoot the cargo out of it and then you sell it, but you get it for a fraction of what you'd have got profit for just hauling it as a truck driver. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the piracy gameplay in that game is really compelling, but then after a while, you're like, this really doesn't matter.
Yes.
We brought up Objects in Space already. I spoke my piece about that game. I mean, there is kind of an economy. You can buy and sell stuff, but it doesn't feel like it matters. Like a lot of these games feels that way. Like the Starpoint Gemini games, they kind of have an economy, but does it really matter beyond the stuff you can sell or the stuff you can buy for your station? I mean, it kind of doesn't. Which is a shame.
Now, in that case, I would argue it doesn't actually have to.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong. That it doesn't really have to.
I think in the scope of that game, it wouldn't, because at least not in, say, Warlords, where you're running you're running an empire. You are the flagship, but you're running an empire. You don't necessarily need to be the one trucking stuff from station to station and looking for good prices. You're just selling off loot and then, buying more ships for your fleet and buying upgrades for your station.
Well, I think they did it okay in Warlords because at that point you're just like, okay, I have civilian fleets and I can tell them what jobs to go do.
Yeah, they made it a little better. Yeah, Warlords does it the best, but it's still not great. You know, I mean, but
it's not a dynamic economy. That's the key point we're getting at here.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't necessarily mean they needed it.
No, but I think what annoyed me on this part of the list is like games that like put on airs of a dynamic economy and kind of gave it to you, but really didn't. Like 30-30 Death War. You know, they pretend to have something of a dynamic economy, but they really don't. It's basically just, I found shit, I'm going to sell it. You know, but they do a better job of making it feel like it matters, which is why I think it's better than, say...
Yeah, it's a cinematic economy rather than a simulated, which is okay as long as it's good enough, you know, because those things can say, hey, you know what, the player's getting bored, let's do something interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for this part of the list, it's not necessarily that the games are bad, because they're not.
No, they could have been better. Like, you saw potential in them is what I put on this list. Like, they had promise, and it's like, it just could have been just a little more work, and they could have felt much more meaningful, you know?
I mean, it could also be that the dynamic economy or the economy that we're looking at might have just been out of the scope of the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Of that particular instance.
That's true. Yeah, like Star Wolves and Terminus had the same problems. Like they kind of gave you the illusion that the economy, like buying and selling and trading, actually mattered, but it kind of didn't. But the games with lacking economies, I put those there because they had no pretense that the economy was only there for you to sell shit you found. You know, that was the only reason it was there, you know, to sell loot you found of killing other people or whatever, you know. Like Freelancer. I remember when that thing was like proposed and it was like big dynamic economy, you know, buy, sell, blah, blah. And commodities. And the final game had commodities, but they meant nothing. Like absolutely nothing. Same with Privateer. Like the economy, the commodities in that game meant absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it was basically like, what's going to sell for a lot there? What can I haul before... You know, it's basically finite supply, right? So I can haul a lot of this like furs or luxury goods or whatever until they run dry. And then while that just dried up, now I got to haul the cheaper stuff or move on.
I don't even know if they do. I don't even know if they go that far, to be honest with you. Like Freelancer never went that far.
Up, for sure.
Freelancer never went that far. Freelancer didn't give a shit.
No, but Privateer, it's
like a little bit.
That first... Trying to get out of the first system if you don't want to do a lot of combat missions. It's like, yeah, there's one place that sells furs and luxury foods.
That's
and then there's
true.
an aggro world that wants it. You just back and forth, and hope to God the pirates don't get you.
That's true. That's a good point.
You save scum a lot.
Yeah. But the other...
It's like, at that point, you don't have a gun, right? I mean, well, you do, but it's a shitty gun. You might as well not
you have one crappy gun. You have just one, like... barely laser thing. That's really... Oh yeah, Yak says in Privateer you run trade at agriculture to mining. And yeah, you could do that ad nauseum. You know, you could do that forever. Didn't matter. You know? Didn't matter
but they
at all.
only have so many of the thing that
I guess
trading. They run out.
That's why I included Rebel Galaxy in this part of the list, because it felt like the same thing as Privateer and Freelancer.
Yeah, Rebel Galaxy had excellent presentation of it, though, because they actually had graphs for the economy. It was does Rebel... Sorry, I was going to say Rebel Galaxy Outlaw does, too. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think it matters a little more in Rebel Galaxy Outlaw than it did in Rebel Galaxy. So, cool.
Yeah, it'll actually kind of matter where you sell the stuff you find, because some stations will buy stuff at better prices. So that's a step in the right direction, you know. Like one station really wants that grill whiskey you just looted from that guy you killed. Whereas the station the closest station, like, we don't care. We'll buy it for a couple hundred credits. Whatever. You know? So you can actually like dock at a station, look that you have grill whiskey and like, oh, this station wants a lot of it. I'm going to fly over there to sell it. But it's not great. But it's not the purpose of the game either.
Yeah, it ain't the focal of the game either. So.
No, I mean, there is one of the my favorite ship in the game is like a ship with a huge cargo bay that like clearly is meant to be a trader, but like I just love that ship because I can like kill and loot as the day is long and not have to fly away and leave stuff behind.
More games need what I War 2 had, where it's just
the guy.
Hey, you just call your buddy. The guy just shows up to loot
with his cargo sled, and it's just like, here, put the pellets on this. Just take that shit. Same with
more
the
of
last
that, please.
That game got so much right. Once you got past the horrible tutorial, that game got so much right. Like, one of the hardest missions in the game was like the last mission of the tutorial, if you recall.
The one where you have to sneak past the
yes.
Fuck that mission.
I had to fucking cheat for that one. I was like, I'm tired of this. I just cheated and just left. Just did it and left.
I've done it, but oh god. So there's a mod out that lets you skip all that bullshit.
Oh, is there? That's great.
Yes.
That's perfect. I've been trying to find the guy who did the Independence War games to bring him on, because I would love to talk about both those games, but finding people who did those older games is hard,
Yeah.
But that's all the games in the list, which is fine because I'm running out of Steam because I'm not feeling so great. So we should probably start.
The Steam's on sale right now, so you should tank up.
Yeah, friends, the Steam sale is going on right now, and there are a lot of good bargains, like we talked about, like Space Rangers HD, Unending Galaxy. Oh God, what are some other ones? Star Traders, Starport Gemini Warlords. The complete DLC package for $16 is a disgusting bargain if you don't have any of it. And it's one of those bundles where they scale it based on what you do or don't have already. So, like, you could still get a good deal if you have, like, one of the DLCs or just the base game, for example. So, that's probably one of the best deals of the sale going right now. Besides, of course, Space Rangers is, like, Starpoint Gemini Warlords at, like, a disgustingly low price.
I'm a huge fan of its Cycle of War DLC.
Oh God,
that's fun. The one that lets you play as a pirate start, and you can't buy ships, so you have to board and capture them in order to add them to your fleet, or you go and liberate prisoners from the orbital prisons, and then they add a bunch of little ships to your fleet.
Right. Yeah, I have not done that yet because I'm still working my way through the campaign. I want to finish that
it's
first.
not one of those you want to start with. You actually have to play the campaign first, or you should play the campaign first before doing that.
Play as an alien too, right?
Yeah, that one lets you play as an alien.
That's the other start in there where every faction is hostile to you. You can board ships, but you can't capture them because your goal is genocide.
Yak says, I hope Starport Gemini 3 will not have the terrible English voiceovers. Dude, that's just part and parcel with Eastern European games. I mean, if you're not used to that by now, go back and play either Star Wolves or go watch the videos of the game I played this week, Tar Chronicles. Some of the worst voice acting I have ever heard.
Oh, but wait till you get to Darklight.
Oh, that's next week. That's next week. Dark Horizon. I'm playing that next week.
Horizon,
already made sure it works.
The voiceovers are even
worse. God,
it's like watch a couple episodes of Lex and then play that game, and then
not only the voiceovers, but that game is just one of the most batshit space games like ever.
It like the plot, right? And it's not just the voiceover, but the dialogue, because it's like somebody ran it through Google Translate from English to Chinese to German and then back to English, and then they say it like with conviction. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm excited.
Oh God, it's good just for that reason, because the dialogue just makes no sense, and yet some kind of sense.
Another great one for horrible voice acting is The Precursors. That game has terrible voice acting. But that's, again, part and parcel with these Eastern European games where they just, get these voice actors who can do English, I guess. But yeah, that's why games like Space Rangers is great, because they don't even bother trying. Just all text. I'm fine with that. Don't even bother. So, folks, we're going to wrap it up. Just a couple quick things. There is no LAN party this week because Thursday is July 4th, and here in the States, that's a holiday. So I'm going to at least be at my in-laws' house. So, yeah, no LAN party this week. Next week on the podcast, we are going to talk about post-release support in video games, in space games especially, because like I don't know if any of you have played the Warhammer 40k Inquisitor ARPG, but they just released a massive 2.0 patch that makes the game 1,000 times better than it was before this patch.
Oh, really?
Oh God, it's an actual like
people that were quitting out it was like the grind was killing people. So
it's so much better now. It's just a leveling system. It's just a leveling system now.
$25.
Yeah, no, it's just a leveling system now. You can actually check your inventory while on a mission. Things are much more streamlined. It's much faster. The graphics are much more optimized, and
is there a DLC for this thing as well?
There are DLCs that add. No, I mean, you don't have to get into the DLC. Most of them adds either little mini campaigns that they call priority assignments or aesthetic things like burning feet. You know, you don't really need the DLC because the game has at least one major campaign, one minor campaign, random missions out the ass, and co-op and PvP and all that. It's gotten, with its patch, it's just gotten so much. It's actually a valid, good ARPG now. Like it feels like
cool. It was a little bit clunky before.
Yeah,
so
it's still on the slower. It's still on the slower, more deliberate side of an ARPG. It's not like fast like Diablo, but like you're gonna be killing guys fast with your weapons.
I prefer deliberate. I just don't like.
Yeah.
You know. It feels like my guy has three cells worth of an animation.
No, it's much better now. It's much, much better now. It runs so much more smoothly, and it actually feels like a valid ARPG. Whereas before,
okay,
I had fun with it. Yeah, it's worth picking up. It's definitely worth picking up. And you could actually, I think, play the campaign in co-op now.
Yeah. It's unfortunate the Chaos, whatever, the Warhammer Fantasy Diablo that they made.
Apparently it didn't do well.
Feels like a mobile game.
Oh,
it just feels like a mobile game. It's not bad. It just really feels like you're playing it on a tablet. I don't know why. It's just kind of it just feels kind of like thick. Yeah. You know how like tablet things just feel a little bit like upscaled UI and just kind of thick, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this feels. Is just like it feels very simple and like big, easy to click on, you know, or something. Like if they put it on tablets tomorrow, I'd be like, yeah, makes sense. Because it's already got that feel.
Just wanted to mention, I just looked it up, and Inquisitor Martyr is currently 81% positive for the recent reviews.
Yeah, it had a huge
505 user reviews in the last 30 days are positive.
Mm-hmm. How much is that patch? Like $25?
Yeah, it's like 26
$25. Yeah. And
it's
then the
it.
DLC is on sale too, or most of it is.
Yeah, you don't have, again, the DLC is not necessary unless you really love the game and want more priority assignments or anything, because you make choices and the choices affect the missions you go on and the success of the overall mini campaign. And then you get loot and money based on how well you did. They're really neat little mini campaigns. So if you really like the game, those are worth getting. I don't have any of the cosmetic stuff because I don't care. But, that got me to thinking, like, what are some space games that have gotten, like Star Traders, for example, that game has gotten astounding post-release support, so we'll definitely be talking about that.
Yep.
So, and we're not talking mods or anything, we're talking, like, DLC, we're talking patches, we're talking, you know, developers that were dedicated to not, like my game isn't done yet, you know, I just got to keep adding to it. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And then next week on the LAN party, we will, if we're feeling up to it, if we're feeling better, we'll be playing Watch Dogs 2, which is what we were going to be playing last week, but just wasn't feeling good. So yeah, thank you everyone so much for listening and watching. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. If you haven't donated, just $1 will do. But like, if you want to actually help create content for the channel, we actually have a couple of tiers where you can do that. We also have a Teespring shirt site thing. You can find links to all this at spacegamejunkie.com. which is our main hub thing. But yeah, I want to thank you all for listening and for watching, and for all my fellow American friends, have a fun and safe July 4th holiday weekend. And we will see you all next week. Have a great one, folks. Good night.